Hi, Dove. Oh. Oh. You hear me? Yeah. Are you? We want to do this?
Yes. Hello.
Hi. I don't know if anybody else is.
Okay. I expect Stan will probably get on, but 10 after. So let's. Okay. So we're on 3A, and we had just discussed. Yes, the things that we're doing on the 15th of that the court did on the 15th of Adar. So we're up to the Yotzinal Afal Kilayim, which is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, about 10 lines there. Yotzinal Afal Kilayim. So the Mishnah said on the 15th of Adar, the court sends out agents to inspect for Kilayim. Look for Yotzim Adar. So didn't they also go on the 15th, on the 1st of Adar? Sorry, no. No, we're asking. In the Mishnah says that on Chol Hamoed they sent out, this was Sarchei Arabim, but if they needed to send out people on Chol Hamoed Pesach, they would do so. So look for Yotzim Adar. So we're asked, didn't they already send them on the 15th of Adar? So do you have to send them again for it? So Kipater, you could answer, it was a late year. So the way that the calendar fell out, they sent out the agents on the 15th of Adar, but it was still early in the springtime, and it was expected that more things would sprout up later, and then they, for whatever reason, were not able to do so before Pesach. So it's one of the things that is considered tzarchei harabim, public good, and you can do it on Chol Hamoed. Now, minayin l'tziyun. So one of the things was they can mark your graves. So first of all, where do you get the idea that you should mark graves? Rabbi Berechia, Rabbi Yaakov Bar Bas Yaakov, B'Shem Rabbi Chunya, B'Bras Chavrin. So this Rabbi Berechia, an unusual name, Rabbi Yaakov, the son and the daughter of Yaakov. So clearly named after his grandfather, I guess. Anyway, they said Rabbi Yosef Allah B'Shem Rabbi Yaakov Baracha B'Shem Chunya B'Bras. The Bras Chavrin, so possibly a different source. Rabbi Chizkiah, Rabbi Uziel, Berei Chunya, Deveis Chavran, B'Shem Rabbi Chunya, Deveis Chavran. So whatever the source is, there's different versions of who said this in the first place. But what they said was, Tame Yikra. A person who has saras, he has to announce that he's Tame as he walks about. Why? Today, Shetei Tuma Karol Chabfiyah, so that the Tuma calls out to you orally, the Omeres approach. In other words, telling you, get away, I'm Tame. Right? So this gives you the idea that when there is Tuma about, you have to announce it so that people know to stay away if they want to remain Tame. With Ila B'Shem Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman, Rabbi Ila says, Ba'avru ha'ovrim ba'aretz v'ra etzem adam uvana tzlotziyim. So this is the I think it's from Yechezkel, the prophecy of Gog and Magog, the apocryphal battle with all the bones lying in the field, and the passerby.
Dry bones.
Dry bones. I think it's that one, and so there will be all these dead bones around, and people will mark them with markers. So that's another source that you should mark cemeteries or graves with markers. Etzem. The Gemara is going to go into detail on this. Etzem bone, mikan shem tzayin al atzamas. You have to put up markers over bones. Adam, it says v'ra etzem adam, the bone of a man. So I say man. Mikan shem tzayin al shira val gulgola. So even if you have the spinal column and the skull, then that you need a marker for. Why that's not included in bones, I'm not sure. Ubana. Maybe it's even if it's very small, if there's a small measure.
Well, maybe we're talking about bones being part of limbs, and as opposed to bone matter that's not part of limbs, like the spinal cord and the skull.
But a skull is definitely bone, right?
No, they're both bones. They're not limbs.
That's possible, I guess, yeah. Ubana, so you build a marker. Mikan shemitzaynin al gabe evan kavua. You can put a marker on a permanent stone, like an attached stone. So basically, if you have a big stone over a grave site, you should mark it with, they used to use lime to mark it. But because if you say that you put the marker on a loose stone, then it could roll away, right? And then the lime on the loose stone will no longer be over the grave, so it won't be useful. So if you're putting lime on the stone to mark the grave, make sure it's set in place. Etzlo, so you put the marker next to the grave. Limkom Tahara, in a place where it's not like directly over the grave, but it's an okay place. It's a Tahara place. And Tzion, and what kind of marker? Mikan with Tzion. So the Tzion refers to, like, you have a marker for all of these things. Tane, we have a brisa. You found one stone that's marked. Alpha Pisha Hemakim, even though, like, you don't, one second. Yeah, so you find a single stone with lime, with this lime, which I used to mark as a tame spot or a grave site. So you only find one. Alpha Pisha Hemakim, even though you don't usually do it that way. What you usually do, as we'll see, is you have markers around the grave. Okay, but if you find only one, mahil Allah. So if the practice is to put the markers around the border of the grave, then that's on a tahar place, right? So what is the status of the airspace above the marker? Tahar, right? But that's if there are two, and in other words, both sides of the grave or more than one side of the grave is marked. Okay, then you can be sure that it's on the side of the grave. But if you only find one, you have to be concerned that somebody placed the stone directly above the grave, and then the airspace above the marker is tummy. Yomer, because they say, Mace Haya Nasim Tachtea, there was a corpse underneath it. Hayushnaim, but if there were two markers, Amal Alam Tar, this airspace above the markers themselves is Tar, because it must be that the two markers are on the sides of the grave. Amal Alam Tar, but if you the airspace, Ubeinehem Tar, but the airspace in between the markers is Tar. And if there was a furrow, a plowed furrow between the two markers, so then you know that there's nothing under there because it's already been plowed up and you didn't find anything. I'm not sure how deep they plowed, right? But I think that if this isn't a public thoroughfare or in a field, like not a designated cemetery, then you could be concerned that I'm not even sure like how this happens, but find a dead body, bury it where it lies, and maybe the person dealing with it wouldn't have bothered to dig very deep. That's the only thing I can think of, like that would make, so then if it was plowed afterwards and nothing was turned up, then it's tar. There's no.
Is this the Beit HaPras kind of thing where there's like
that's right. That seems to be the inspiration. Yeah.
A grave somewhere got plowed. It's like
right. It's unclear. You don't know.
Right.
So if there was a furrow between them, right? Then they're treated like individual markers, and so there's clearly nothing in the furrow, but the markers themselves perhaps were placed on top of like what are the markers doing there? If there was no grave, there must be somebody placed the markers directly on top of a site where there are bones or whatever. So the Nantar. So then in between them, where there's a furrow tower, and on top is the airspace is Tane. Tane, we have a brisa. You don't make a marker for flesh. Shema nis akel habasar, because the marker is going to last a long time. The flesh is going to decompose, right? So then people will. So what's the problem there? Well, what happens if you take truma? You're holding truma while you walk over it. So now, if the truma is tame or suspected, then it has to be burnt. But if it's an improper marker and there's really no problem there, you're going to burn truma for no reason, which you shouldn't do. So therefore, don't put a permanent marker or a long-lasting marker over flesh that's going to decay, because people will be misled. But once it decays, then there's no more problem, no more truma. And the marker will still be there, so people
Flesh
will.
without the bone, you mean?
I'm sorry?
This is flesh without the bone?
Yes, right. Rabbi Yusva bar Shunam ba kume Rabbi Mana. Rabbi Yusva asked, "V'lonim tame taharos l'mafreya." Wait, so what you're saying is, like, won't it happen that you're gonna make like truma could be made tame retroactively, because if you're not going to mark it, then as long as the flesh is still there, it does make things tame, right? So what are you doing? It's better that, like, some people will mess up, for a short time, right? For the time that the flesh is still extant. And so, yeah, those people are going to have a problem. They're going to be eating truma that's tummy, which is bad. But it's better for them. I'll use koku boliolam, and let's not put a permanent misleading thing in place, right? So, what are you going to do? You can't do. I mean, I can think of ways you can do this, okay? But you can't put a permanent marker there because of one problem. You can't put a temporary marker there, or you can't not put a marker there because of another problem. So choose the one that's going to end up with the shorter term problem. Now, I can think of ways where you could put a marker and say, this was placed here on March 23rd, 2021. Well, okay, I don't know.
Of course, they didn't have really dates the way that we do, but yeah, I mean, so some people are going to be tame and not know it, right?
Yeah, right. But that's better than a lot of people having truma that they're going to burn for no reason. Interesting, right? I wouldn't have thought the Gemara would say that, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't either. They're so concerned about people being tame and stuff, but of course, it's only the Kohanim that have the truma, right?
Or people who want to go into the temple, right?
Okay.
People bring Ole Rago, right?
Okay.
Next question. So these inspectors went out, and what did they do when they found Kilayim? They would tear it up and leave it on the ground. But once this happened a lot, so basically people would say, okay, they weeded my. We'll see what the Gemara does with this. But when it happened more frequently, then they would tear it out and throw it onto the road. And then later on, they said, you know what, this isn't working. We'll see why in the Gemara. What we're going to do is we're going to appropriate this property from the people who are allowing Kilayim to grow. And take it away from them. Okay, we'll see what the Gemara does with this. Amar Yehuda. Tani, we have a brisa. Amar Yehuda, Barishani, Okrin, Mashlichin, and Flim. First, originally they would just uproot the Kilayim and leave it there. So the owners would be happy for two things. First of all, they're like weeding the field, right? Like the idea is, you're going to plant lentils this year. So very nice. The inspectors are going to come. They're going to do your work for you and remove the weeds. Thank you very much. And in the process, they're preparing the field. And plus, what are they doing with the wheat? They're throwing it. They're just leaving it there. So I'll go collect it, and I'll have some extra wheat this year. So people were very happy not to do anything and let the inspectors come and do their work. So once people got used to this, and people would leave that for the inspectors to do. So they started throwing it onto the road. So then the owner wouldn't be able to use it anymore. It would be in the street. But they were still happy because at least they were doing their work for them, uprooting the wheat. So that's when they said, you know what, we're going to take the whole field away from them. Now, how do you know that the court has the authority to appropriate property? Receive the call So you have a pasuk in Ezra where basically Ezra demonstrated this power that you don't come for you don't come for 3 days. Like if you were, so basically Ezra decreed that everybody should divorce their non-Jewish wives. Okay? This is a big problem, the intermarriage. So people who didn't comply, their property was confiscated. Now, how do you know that once the property is declared declared ownerless, you don't need to take masa from it anymore, which is a bit of a tangent. Okay. Yonasan Bered Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Acha, Shmuel Aminadar. Yonasan's not from here. In Mabrin Sashana, Brisa says you don't make a leap year, lo b'shvis, not in the 7th year, the Shmita year, v'lo b'motzei shvis, and nor in the 8th year, the year after Shmita. But if they did, you're not supposed to do it, but if they did, that works. Now, the 1 month which they add for the leap year, lo patur maser, so isn't it patur from maser? Because when you add something to the 7th year, right? So the 13th month should be, like, since it's part of the Shemitah year, should be free from maser. But
doesn't the Shemitah year start on Rosh Hashanah?
Yeah. But so talking, yeah, so it would be the month of Tishrei would be the 13th month, I guess, or what would otherwise be the month of Tishrei. So originally, September was going to be the Tishrei, okay, and then they decided to make a leap month. So September now becomes part of the previous year, and October is Tishrei, right? So September was originally should have had to take maser from things harvested in September. And now we've changed it. We're saying no longer. Now October is Tishrei, and September is still part of the Shemitah year. So this demonstrates that the court making a leap year has the power to take that September produce and say, you know what, we don't. It was going to be responsible or required to take matzah from it, but no, we changed our minds. Now it's part of the leap year, and so it's part of the Shemitah year, and so you don't have to take matzah from it. So analyzing the brisa a little bit more. Nicha shvis, mostly shvis. So first of all, I understand the problem with not making a leap year in Shemitah. It makes it harder on people, right? It's bad enough you have to not farm for 12 months. Now we're giving you a 13th month. Like, wait till next year, right? Mostly Shemitah, but what's the problem with adding a month in the year after Shemitah? So Amar Ravun Shalol Rabbos Isur Chadash, so that you don't increase the time that you can't eat the new crop. Okay, so going to the springtime now, in the new year, March was supposed to be Pesach, right? And then they decided, you know what, we're going to add an extra month. March is going to be in April. What do you get to eat in March, right? Well, originally, you could have eaten the new crop, right? After Pesach, after the first day of Pesach, you can eat the new crop, right? And now I'm saying, you know what, we're going to defer that till April. In March, you still have to eat the old crop because it's not Nisan yet, not Pesach yet. Okay, so you're making it hard on people by having them have to exist or have to sustain themselves from last year's crop and not this year's crop. Okay, everybody, we're on 3A towards the bottom of the page. Rabbi Zera, that looks like about 12 lines up. Rabbi Zera, Rabbi Shem, Rabbi Lazar. And Rabbi Zera said, Hadada Amar actually to Rabbi Lahavi Yarak Mechutz Laaretz Laaretz. That which you said, that you can't add a month into the Shemitah year, right? That is only until Rabbi allowed people to bring produce from outside of Israel into Israel. Um, so originally the idea was that don't bring things that grow from the ground from outside of Israel into Israel because of the problem of Tumah, because the rabbis considered all the whole region outside of the land of Israel to be Tameh. So you bring stuff in, you bring stuff in that is Tameh, right? You're increasing, I'm sorry, plants.
Even like trees and stuff. I mean,
well, once you have harvested them.
Oh, once it's in the chubar, it's okay. But I mean, but
yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, like, don't bring this Tameh stuff. The Rebbe said, for whatever reason, we're not going to prohibit that anymore. Misha Hitir Rebbe Lahavi Yarak once he permitted that, he shall sharsh and shivua. Then it's the same. Like, you don't have to worry about if you're going to allow imports of produce, then you don't have to worry so much about what are we going to eat during Shemitah, right? You'll buy imported stuff. So it's fine to add an extra month of Shemitah where you can't harvest and grow stuff in Israel because you can import. Tani ein ma'abrin. So we answered why you can't make an extra month in Shemitah. Now, originally when the years were, when like agriculture was in its original state, by which he means that the way the calendar is set up, you're supposed to. What happens on the first day of Pesach? On the first day of Pesach, you would bring the carbon ha'omer. You would take fresh barley, like the new crop of barley, and that would be part of a sacrifice in the temple. And then after that, you can eat the new crop of barley. Okay, so that used to happen. But now it seems like the growing season has changed somehow. Like now that the growing season has changed, and maybe people have figured out how to manipulate the crops and so on, so that they grow at different times. We don't have to worry so much about adding an extra month of not being able to eat the new crop because
improved agricultural.
Yeah, because it doesn't actually. It's not even improved. It's like it's actually the opposite of improved. It's like anyway. It takes long for the barley to ripen. There's not much new barley around anyway till a month after Pesach. Right. So it's fine to add an extra month because it'll just as long as when the new crop is widely available, it's already after Pesach. So based on Rabban Gamliel, he grew up in Motzai Shvis Miyad. In the household of Rabban Gamliel, the court of Rabban Gamliel, they would add an extra month in the year after Shemitah. Rabbi Yabu said, "In min hadar, if that's your proof, leisat shema min akutla." That's not a good proof. Why? Shamar is chodesh hazit. The Torah says, guard the spring month. Right? In other words, Shamreu sheyaviu b'chidusha. Make sure that the spring month, the month of Nisan, is when it's springtime, right? So that indicates that the court has the latitude to do it whenever it's needed. But Vahaida Amar Da. So where does it say this? That so what's in that case? If this isn't your proof, then what's your proof that based in the court can appropriate property? There's another Mishnah which talks about a pile from under which leket has not been gathered. So leket is there's three things that are similar: leket, shiklan, paya. All right, if you're harvesting stuff and you drop things along the way, you can't go back and pick them up. You have to leave them for the poor. So if you have a pile of stuff from under which leket has not been gathered, anything that's touching the ground, that is not available for the poor. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, this is the opinion of Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, because Beis Hillel holds differently. And that the poor they can eat the leket, but they also have to give maser from it. So in other words, even though this is property, produce in this case that the court has declared to be ownerless, nonetheless, Beis Hillel still says you have to give maser from it. And we have heard that you don't have to give the maser according to everybody, even Beis Hillel, because it is declared so by the court. Okay, so even though Beis Hillel says really you should give maser from this leket, this pile of stuff even though it really belongs to the owner of the field and is required to have master taken from it. But once the court rules that, you know what, we're going to appropriate this from the owner of the field, make it ownerless, and then anybody could come along, poor people can come along and pick it up. Once they've declared it ownerless, then it no longer is required to take master from it. So this is a proof. This case is also a proof that property made ownerless by the Beis Din, by the court, is not required, that they have the power to do that, basically, and even to the point where you don't have to do that.
That would sort of be adding insult to injury to declare your field ownerless, but you still have to give maser from it.
The poor people do not.
What's that?
I'm sorry. Say again. I don't understand.
You didn't do kilayim, but that's why they're declaring it ownerless.
Oh, in our case, you did there because you didn't comply with the kilayim rules, so that's why they're declaring.
They're taking your field away from you.
Yeah.
But then they're going to make you pay taxes on it, or so to speak.
They're basically going to say anybody can come and help themselves from your field, and they don't have to take maser because it's a ownerless field.
Oh, you don't have.
Are they actually going to do that? I don't know. Like you're going to sit on your porch with your shotgun. They probably won't.
Oh, you mean that? I thought you have to give maser.
Yeah, but not from an ownerless field. If it's no longer your field, you don't have to give maser. But you don't get the 9/10 either. That's the thing.
Right.
They're taking the whole thing away from you. Yeah. Next mission. The 15th of Adar, the money changers would set up shop in the countryside. But what do you need money changers for? So you need money changers for a lot of things. First of all, there's Maser Sheni, right? Or people redeeming. There's all kinds of redemptions going on basically around the time when everybody comes to the temple. You could redeem animals which are consecrated. You can redeem Maser Sheni, right? So you need bankers basically to help you with these transactions. So on the 25th of Adar, then they set up shop in the temple. I guess people would come earlier. The flights were cheaper, if you didn't come too close to Pesach, so that people would come earlier. There would be more traffic in the temple traffic in Yerushalayim, and so they needed more. That's when they set up the money changer stalls. Once that happened on the 25th of Adar, then the court began to appropriate, people who had made donations, and maybe there was collateral. They would start to, take that collateral, claim the collateral, and cash it in. That's me, Mashkin. Who do they do that for? Levim Yisrael, the Levim and the ordinary people. The Gerim, Vavadim, Shekharim, and converts and freed slaves. They would not do this for women, slaves, and children. I suppose so as not to be so hard on them. Like they need, they're presumably in greater need of funds, and so we're going to extend them more time. I mean, they still have to fulfill their pledges, but we're not going to enforce that at the time that's convenient for us. If you have a child that his father started to pay the half shekel for him, then you have to keep doing it the next day, which is interesting. Um, yeah, and maybe what the mamashing, the collecting here is also talking about expropriating the half shekel, and so that's why this we go into this statement that once you've started donating on behalf of your child, you have to keep doing it the following years. In mashkin sekonim, they dark shalom, and we don't extract these pleasures from the kohanim because of dark shalom, because of keeping the peace. So the Gemara will discuss what are we talking about. Already, Yehuda, hey Ben Bukhari B'Yavna, Ben Bukhari testified in Yavna. Kohen sheshokel in ochote. The Kohen who, any Kohen that pays the half shekel, he doesn't sin, even though he doesn't have to get it. Amar Yochanan ben Zakkai Loki, not so. Yochanan says no. Al Kohen she'eno shokel ochote. On the contrary, the Kohanim do have an obligation. If they don't do it, then they're sinners. But the Kohanim kind of found a peg to hang on to, not to pay. The Torah says any sacrifice, of flour sacrifice of a Kohen, it gets burned. It doesn't get eaten by the Kohen. So if you or I bring a mincha, a flour offering to the temple, then the Kohen will get to eat it. If the Kohen brings a mincha, then it gets burned and nobody gets to eat it. So the Kohen says, since everything else we do get to eat, right? So everything else we do get to eat. So it must be that we don't have a share in them, right? The idea is, if we learn from the mincha that the sacrifice of a kohen doesn't get eaten by the kohen, and we know that all these other things, these communal sacrifices, do get eaten by the kohanim, must be that those communal sacrifices are not from the funds of kohanim. Therefore, it must be that kohanim don't have to pay into the fund. Now, this reasoning is specious, but that's what the kohanim used to do, and that's why the Mishnah is criticizing them, saying it doesn't work that way. And mashkin sektan. So the Mishnah said we don't collect from children. But so what does that mean? You can't force them, but does that mean that we like ask them to donate? Are they included in the appeal? Hadad the Tamar Shehevi b'Shehevi Shtei Saros. So the answer is that what kind of from whom do we demand? Do we request the money? From a child who has already had two pubic hairs grown, which is the first sign of maturity. But if not, well, he's not included. We don't even ask him to pay the half shekel. So, and when do we start? So that's when we start encouraging or asking people to donate the half shekel. But when do we insist on it? When do we force them? Only once they turn 20 years old. Kani Masnisa. And similarly, we have a brisa for that. In the Mashkin Sekonim, we have another Mishnah which says we don't demand or we don't expropriate from the Kohanim because of treating them with respect. So it's a little bit different than what we had before Dr. Shalom. And I'm not even sure what's the difference. But either way, it seems like, they're obligated, but we're going to steer clear of starting a fight with them or, going to extraordinary measures to get the money out of it. I'm Rabbi Yehuda. Hey, so Rabbi Yehuda said that we have testimony about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. How Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is because it says this they shall give. When it talks about the original half shekel donation in the desert, it said God says to Moshe, this is what they shall give. And Zeh is the letter Zion and Hay, the numerical value of 7 plus 5, which is 12. So Shnei Masar Shvatim Yitnu. All 12 tribes shall give, including Levi, which includes the Kohen. Okay. Again, not the best logic, because people were being without the Kohen. but the idea of Zeh, all 12 tribes should do, mean everybody should do. So that's where Rabbi Yochanan's source is, that the Kohanim are liable to pay this tax. So Tavi b'shem Rav Hanina, Tavi says, came Mashivin Chachamim Rabbi Yehuda. This is how the rabbis answered Rabbi Yehuda when they said that really the Kohanim are not obligated in the first place. What's their source? Chatas Yachid Meis. If you have a chatas offering, a sin offering of an individual, and there are a number of reasons, there's any one of a number of reasons that it can't be sacrificed. It becomes tame, it was like lost, and another one was exchanged in its place already. So you have this chatas which is sanctified, but is no longer eligible to be sacrificed. So that is the case for an individual's chatas. In chatas tzibur metzah, but a sin offering of the whole community has a different rule, right? And there's we don't leave it to lie. We actually let it survive until it gets a blemish, and then we sell it and use the proceeds for the temple. Whereas the individual's one, we just kind of lock it up and let it start. Okay, so if that's the case, minchas and also minchas yachid kreva kalil, and as we saw earlier, an individual's mincha gets burnt, nobody eats from it. Minchas atzibur kreva kalil, but a communal mincha gets eaten by the kohanim. So this is the same kind of proof that we labeled in the Mishnah as specious, but the rabbis who are arguing with Rabbi Yochanan say, actually, this is a good inference, right? This is a good indication that the Kohanim are different than everybody else, the kasha. But the Gemara says, well, wait, that's not a very good question. Do we answer Rabbi Yochanan with something that he doesn't agree with? It's not. Actually, Rabbi Yehuda says that's not true. There is no difference between a chatas of an individual and a chatas of the community. So, what you're trying to prove to him that there's a difference? There's no difference according to him. We mostly want to answer Zula nivas yachihi. In any case, it's like this isn't an individual contribution. The inun nesivin right. And the rabbis would answer him, Kevan shenim shoralexi, where since it's given to, it's a public, even though it comes from individuals, right? But it's considered a public thing because everybody has to do it, right? Which kind of makes sense because usually when you say an individual's, sacrifice or whatever, it's like because he committed the sin or he made a donation, right? But when everybody is supposed to participate in something, even though it comes out of their own individual pocket, we can still consider it a communal thing. Adducing some further support for these things, the original half shekel of the Torah says anyone who passes through the census, good translation. In other words, anybody who's between the ages of 20 and 50, I think, who is, that's Libyan. Anybody who's over the age of 20 who is counted in the census, that's who had to give the half shekel. Rabbi Yechemia had something to say about this. Chanamar, one of them says, "Kol davar b'yama yitin." Anyone who passed. So what is over al pikudim? Literally means who passes through the ranks, I guess. So one of them says this means anybody who passed through the Red Sea, right? There's a column of water on each side. So over al pikudim means passing through the ranks of the sea, right? That's who had to give the shekel. In other words, you could have been under 20, right? Maybe women too, I don't know. But anybody who passed through the Red Sea is the one who is referred to in Kol HaOver al Pikudim, wants to give the half shekel. Harlam on the other one says, Kol Da'avar al Pikudai, anybody who was counted in the census. Pikudim is also numbers, right? One it says anybody who passed through the sea, Messiah of Yochanan and Zakkai. That's the part of Yochanan and Zakkai. because guess what? The Kohanim also passed through the sea, right? So by saying that everybody who passed through the Red Sea has to give the half shekel, it includes the Kohanim. And Mandi Amar Kola Avra Kukunai, anybody who was counted in the census was because each tribe was counted separately, and the Kohanim were not counted. The Levim were counted, but the Kohanim were not counted. They weren't very many Kohanim, which should be recalled. But apparently they weren't part of the census, and so according to that view, they would not be required to go in half shekel. Okay, that's it for today. We'll pick up here.
Thank you all.
Okay, I wish you all Chag Hashem Sameach, by the way.
Right.
I will be in Wisconsin for Pesach, but I will pick up Tuesday morning wherever we go after.
Sounds good. Okay.
Very good. Chag Sameach.
Thanks a lot.